Hey, welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. My name is Lord Danavan Hylton. I have the opportunity to serve as a business advisor specializing in marketing, particularly in the areas of business development and community relations for employers, workforce development organizations, real estate developers, local businesses, as well as international businesses. And I also own and operate a sales and marketing firm based in Nashville, Tennessee, Hylton Elite Marketing Agency, alongside my wife, where we provide grassroots marketing strategies to actually go out and generate leads, help you cross promote, as well as build awareness for your brand, particularly in minority communities. So we're focusing on either increasing your customer base or increasing your presence in the community. So, for example, if you're an employer and you need help connecting to more residents for your jobs, for your available jobs, you're pretty much going to reach out to our firm. Or if you're a workforce development organization focusing on career training, you're definitely going to reach out to us to connect to our audience. And what makes our audience so unique is we do focus on what one would call minority community residents, as well as diverse businesses and professionals. We want to do a great job as a consulting firm to bridge that communication gap between the corporate world and the diverse working communities that we serve, and that's vice versa. And so just want to break down a little bit about my story, about my advising business and my consulting firm, just so you can have a better understanding of who I am and what I do. And I do run my sales and marketing firm, Hylton Elite Marketing Agency, alongside my wife and business partner, Malika Hylton. So just real quick, my story, just some things to keep in mind. I'm going to start my story when I was 21 years old, pretty much getting ready to move from one geographical territory in the United States of America to another area, a whole different state. And I ended up starting this journey with my girlfriend, who's now my wife. And so 2009 had just, 2008, 2009 had just relocated from the West Coast to the state of Tennessee. And at that time, I moved with my girlfriend, and we moved to Tennessee simply because we needed a place to stay. And so she was raised by her dad in the West Coast, and her mom had just moved from one city to the next in the state of Tennessee. And it was her mom and my wife's sisters, two sisters, and my wife's nieces, and my wife's grandmother. And they said, "Hey, come on out to Tennessee. We got some room, and you guys can find a place on the floor, if you will. Start your journey from there." And because coming from California, I was hosting at the time 21 AAU youth basketball tournaments and clinics. I was doing that. Had a love for basketball. Had a chance to serve as vice president for the Los Angeles Push, which was a semi-professional basketball franchise. If you're familiar with the red, white, and blue basketballs, that league. And I also had a chance to serve as assistant varsity basketball coach for the boys team for my high school alma mater. So I've always been around activities, and because I love basketball so much, I decided to use basketball as a tool for me to kind of go through life. Meaning, if I love basketball, what could I do as a career to stay around it? So I started off as a referee, was getting paid for that. Then ended up coaching, and then getting to a point and doing training camps, and then eventually moved into hosting basketball tournaments and things like that for the kids, to the point where I was given, in so many words, an opportunity to serve as vice president of sponsorships for a semi-professional basketball team. And that really helped me with my perspective of, the business side of sports, but also business to some degree. Keep in mind, at this time, I'm 19, 20 years old, going through these experiences, very young, very ambitious, and things unfortunately ended up drying up where my wife and I decided to go and move to Tennessee because uh, the city that we were in, they hit a rough economic point, and I ended up getting laid off from my. I had a chance to serve as an admissions representative at a career college out there that focused on the 4 year side, the 4 years focused on the business side of sports. Excuse me, I had a chance to connect with and work as an admissions representative at a career college where we focused on the business side of sports. And having a chance to serve as an admissions representative there really gave me my first experience as far as the sales process, dealing with leads and calling these leads and sending emails out to these leads and trying to get these candidates or these prospects down to the school so they can take a tour of the school and I can answer any questions or concerns they had face to face. And so that was my first, from the business side, corporate side, my first experience of generating leads. And but again, because the city in the state that I was in was hitting rough economic times, I had basically all my youth that were training with me. All their parents pulled their child out of my training program simply because times were rough, and they were budgeting their money. And me being an admissions representative at 1920, paying rent, single, not really with a family, I was one of the first representatives to be laid off from the career college. And so I found myself bouncing around. Bouncing around. Well, actually, once I was laid off from the position, I ended up getting evicted from my house I was paying rent for, and moved in with my girlfriend. Now, again, I'm still doing basketball training and things like that on the side, looking for employment. But also at the time, now my wife, we're just dating at the time. Now she's getting laid off from her three part-time jobs, back to back, and to the point where now we get evicted from her house. I moved in with her, and now we're bouncing around from motel to motel, looking for a place to stay. Then our cars break down, so now we're catching the bus, and that's when my wife's mom said, "Hey, come on out to Tennessee, Nashville to be specific," and that's really where I got my start. And some fun facts: moving to Nashville, that was a city on the rise. So I was very fortunate to move to a city that had economic opportunity for someone like me. And I had the opportunity, first and foremost, to start off as a janitor as far as my career. First getting to Nashville, start off as a janitor, buffing floors and cleaning toilets and everything in between. And it was during that time while I was working, I had a chance to also use my skills to help raise funds for nonprofit organizations, to help raise funds for them. And because of that, and the results that I was bringing, I had a lot of community residents ask me to run for city council. And so at the time, the council person at that time had termed out, so the seat basically was open for anyone that may have felt they could run and serve and fill that void. And so I ran for city council, ended up having about $1,100 in my campaign and about 11 votes. But during that time, I didn't win, but during that time I built relationships with the individual that actually ended up earning the seat. And then I took the person who earned the seat. They were an executive committee member of a political party, and I was new to the area, and I just was doing a lot of community work. And so this newly elected council member basically said, because I can't really do both, as far as working as a council member and still having this executive committee seat for this party, why don't you take this executive committee seat? You can work closely with me, and you can still get to learn how the political process, civic process works, and you get a chance to build relationships with your community. And that was really one of the bigger opportunities that I had, because that's what introduced me to government relations. And so now I'm still working as a janitor and doing odd jobs, running for city council, end up earning a seat as the executive committee member for a political party. And it was during this time that I actually started transitioning from working for someone into starting my own career. And what I mean by that is during my campaign, I was out in the community doing my work, ended up going to a particular company who were short-staffed, and I know they were short-staffed because the district manager was at this site, and we're sitting there at this restaurant. It's kind of a restaurant, and the district manager's running around, and one of my team members said, "Hey, looks like you're stressed and behind." I said, "Yeah, we're short, staff members." And so my team member said, "Well, hey, you should talk to my friend Donovan. He's hosted job fairs in the past. He can probably help you, get find people to work." And at the time, I was hosting job fairs in the past simply because when I ended up moving to Nashville, we ended up eventually getting into a public housing site. And as I'm working and still raising funds for nonprofits, I used to wear a suit and stuff as well from the thrift stores. So I had a lot of community residents come to me saying, "Hey, Donovan," because they saw me trying to do something. "Hey, Donovan, are you able to help me find a job?" They saw that I was active and working, things of that nature. And so because I had so many young men, especially, and just people overall, residents asking me to help them find a job, it was my wife's idea, a girlfriend at the time, to say, "Hey, let's start this job fair. Let's do a job fair." And so we ended up doing a job fair, and I believe we had about like 20 same-day interviews. We had about 11 employers that stopped by. I went around a 2-mile radius from where I lived and knocked on pretty much every door to see who can come and support this job fair, and ended up getting about 11, maybe between 11 and 15 employers. And we also had a career college that I used to work at as well. Their career center director stopped by, and there was a special room where there was computers, and we could help with your resume, help you complete applications. And so we ended up getting about 30 applications completed, 20 same day interviews. We had about another 20 next day interviews scheduled. And then we also had about like 10 or 12 people get hired same day. And so that's the reason why my campaign team member said, "Hey, Donovan can help you raise these funds." And so ended up going to a local staffing company down the street, and because I introduced the company I was looking for residents to work, and I introduced that situation to the staffing company, the owner happened to be there. By the time I left that staffing company, I was offered a position to work with this company, and I ended up serving as the director of marketing and community engagement for this company for about 2-3 years. And that was my first real introduction into the power that I have as far as connecting with community residents for them to improve themselves, either be it through education, employment, or self-improvement mentally. And so if you can see here in this picture, this is just some of my experiences. I did get the job as a director of marketing and community engagement for the staffing company. But I failed to mention, back in 2011, I ended up getting a job as an admissions representative at a career college in Nashville, simply because I had my first son on the way. And someone told me, "Hey, you can get a financial aid check if you go to college, and get educated." So I ended up going to this career college and signed up for their business management courses. And so the day that I had my interview to be accepted into the college, I had an interview with the director of admissions, who I didn't know was the director of admissions at the time. I ended up wearing, again, my thrift store clothes, a suit, because I wanted to be taken seriously and be heavily considered to be enrolled into the school and to allow the college to let me in. So I came to the interview in my suit and ended up going through the conversation with the director of admissions about why I should be accepted into the college. And going halfway through my spiel, the director of admissions said, "I don't mean to interrupt you, but you seem like a well-dressed, well-spoken young man. Have you ever thought about a career in admissions?" I said yes, and by the end of that day, I ended up having a career or a position at the career college. And about a year later, that same director of admissions ended up taking a job in a different state. And even though there were other admissions representatives at the college that were there way longer than me, I ended up getting promoted to become the director of admissions just within a year, simply because the regional director of admissions for the career college said, you're working at you're working at director of admissions level without getting paid for it. Now, I will always joke around and say the um, inexperience that I had to some degree allowed the career college to pay me a little less because I was young and didn't have as much experience, but I did know what I was doing. So compared to if I was applying for the job now, of course that pay would have to go up because I'm older, I'm a lot more mature, a lot more seasoned compared to when I was younger. But I did have an opportunity to receive a position based upon my appearance and how I presented myself. And that's the same thing that happened with the staffing company several years later. And so just knowing that, these are the things that I've learned to grow and accept within myself as far as my skill sets and what people need, what clients need, what businesses need, what community leaders need, what government leaders need as well. And so, as we can see, I begin to see my calling. And even though I was doing a great job as a admissions representative on the education sector, connecting with non-traditional students, usually 25 years or older, usually single moms with two or three or more children, working two jobs or more, as well as young men that may have a background, but they're looking for a innovative, realistic way to receive documentation so they can work. And serving as a director of admissions and listening to these individuals tell me why they should be accepted into the college, and or tell me why what I look like and what I'm doing inspires them, really helped me to start seeing my calling and what I was designed to do, or what made me happy when it came to representing the diverse working communities that I serve. And so going into 2017 and building these great relationships, first of all, serving as a director of admissions for the career college in Nashville for 3-4 years at this point, and having a chance to serve as a director of marketing community engagement for a staffing company 2 to 3 years as well, and still doing a lot of community work on the side and connecting with these government and community leaders, I started to realize, hey, I can run my own consulting firm and work with more employers, work with more businesses, work with more real estate developers, and really help bridge a lot of the communication gaps within corporate America, as well as prepare residents to transition into the corporate world as well, especially the communities that I serve. And so that's when I started Hylton Elite Marketing Agency alongside my wife in 2017. And our whole job at the time was to build your customer base. I used to go out and knock on 400 doors a month for my clients, 100 doors a week when I first started. And they would pay me to go and knock on these doors. And from there, I would take this information and then I would put it into a email campaign in which I would blast out a video email explaining who I am, what I'm doing, what my message is, and then I would also follow up with the phone call as well. And just over the years, building all these contacts and building, all these relationships, my firm literally became the go-to firm, not only for your diverse needs, but also genuinely for your business development needs when it comes to increasing that customer base and that sales pipeline, simply because of the grassroots marketing strategies that are affordable and organic that I was using. And so now we as a firm are pretty much your leading sales and marketing firm, especially again with diversity in Middle Tennessee, and we're just growing. And we're getting to a point where my wife surprised me back in 2000 or 2001 and registered me as a Lord, and she registered herself as a lady in England and Wales because she bought a plot of land, if you will, out in that area. And based upon the Lord, if you look at the title of it, Lord, especially in the UK, it does mean landowner, and it also can relate to you being a master or expert in your career. And with me serving as a marketing expert and having a small plot of land overseas, we went on ahead and did the title Lord simply because I want to continue to build relationships and having as many ways to break the ice and using as many ways to connect with different cultures is so important. Now, I will say, for some that have given me a hard time about me using the title Lord, to some, yes, I did pay US dollars for what one could consider a fake peerage title certificate. And I would say they call it fake, but in my book, it's not fake. It's a business that's running, and they're running their business, and I paid for it. But and it's a title certificate of a peerage. But for me, it's an idea of conceiving what I want to achieve. It's me saying, hey, I understand that I'm in the States and I'm doing great work with the corporate world in the States, but I also want to do business in UK. I want to run a multinational corporation. So having that title, or at least creating or conceiving the title, the idea of the title, for me, helps me to better position my mind for where I'm going to serve as, again, an advisor in business, community relations, business development, as well as an expert, because I have unique ways to break ice and to build relationships, and the Lord is one way to do that. Then also at the same time, I also want to stimulate the minds of the young folks in the communities that I serve, because if we don't, as human beings, focus on areas outside of what we can see, sometimes we can limit ourselves, especially if the results and experiences that we are seeing in that environment is not motivating, is not productive. And so I want to be able to expand the minds of those that are coming behind me as far as youth, and this is one cultural way to do it. And so that's what I do best. And so again, this is a real quick synopsis of my story and what led me here. I do want to shout out my wife, Malika, and our boys for helping to run the family business. But we're at a point now where we're running a full company. And if you're looking to connect with us to better engage working diverse communities, either for employment or workforce development reasons, for real estate development reasons, for local business development reasons, or if you're a African diaspora country or country overseas that wants to get into targeted areas that I serve as far as business development internationally, make sure you click the link and reach out. We're here to help you, and make sure you like, follow, and subscribe our work, and we look forward to connecting with you soon.